the D.C. Snipers. So the famed shooting started on October 2nd, 2002, when a bullet shot through the glass of a Michael's craft store and narrowly missed its cashier. And since nobody had been injured, this was seen as a fluke and wasn't ringing any alarm bells of authorities. But this would soon change when another shot was fired just a couple minutes away from Michael's craft store. Approximately an hour later, a 55-year-old man named James Martin was shot and killed in the parking lot of a grocery store as he loaded his groceries into his car. The following day, they were going to murder 4 people over a period of 2.5 hours, and all within the same 10 square miles. All the victims were different ages, races, and genders, and it was very clear that robbery was not the motive because all of the shots came from a long distance and nothing was stolen from any of the victims. So it was terrifying because they were like, when is this going to start up again? And they were right, because they did start up again the very next day on October 4th, 2002. At approximately 2:30 p.m., 43-year-old Carolyn Sewell was loading her minivan when she was shot in the chest. She was the first known victim of the DC Snipers to survive. The next shooting didn't actually happen for 3 days, but it gets worse. It gets much worse. 13-year-old Iran Brown had just been dropped off at school an hour early by his aunt. As she was pulling away, she heard a shot, and she turned around to see that her 13-year-old nephew had been shot in the chest while he entered his school. He was able to survive this and actually ended up testifying at the trials once these guys were caught. The death toll for the DC Snipers was 15 murders. The police had taken a call from the shooters where they were able to trace the call. Well, on that call, in addition to giving their demands and threatening children, they also started to brag a little bit. They started to brag about a murder, but it wasn't a murder that happened in the DC area. No, it was a murder that had happened before the DC shootings even started in Alabama. Apparently at the murder scene in Alabama, the suspects had dropped a magazine. And on this magazine, there was a fingerprint that the police in the area had not yet processed. So they had the magazine flown out to the DC area, they processed it, and there was a match to a 17-year-old kid named Lee Boyd Malvo. There's no way that the 17-year-old kid is acting alone in this. So they started to look into people that Lee knew. And they found that Lee was very close with a 41-year-old man named John Allen Muhammad. John Allen Muhammad would often tell Lee that they needed to bring down the government and bring down the leaders. So it was thought that he wanted to please John and that essentially Lee Boyd Malvo was brainwashed.